moment for public input. Allison, gonna wait for.
I know that Chris invited me to talk about mental illness and rentals and things like that.
Okay.
We'll hear more about. Really don't care. Make sure that's not gonna happen. How do you, reading language.
I got it. Okay. So, thank you, Chris, for inviting me because it's something that has been popping up in my life is affordable housing, in not my personal life, in my professional life here as the Human Services Director. And Chris really was inquiring about mental illness and the correlation between affordable housing and not having rentals and things like that. And I think that's pretty obvious. I've done a little researching things like that. It increases stress and anxiety, depression. There's PTSD attached to it. For me, more than anything, it's more educational. I'm trying to learn as much about this as possible right now because I don't know a whole lot about what you guys are all doing. One of the more blaring questions that's been coming up it's very separate from you guys, but I was wondering how everybody works with BED. Because there are similarities between what you guys are doing and what BED is already holding. And I think and I like to quantify things. So when I say a lot, I would say a handful of people who live in those housing areas have questions about enforcement and what could possibly be next. How are the repairs going, that kind of thing. So my real question today is how everyone works together in resolving any of those issues. I'm very removed again. I'm not educated in it at all. So I was hoping to kind of get a little education around it, help if I can. A lot of those tenants are coming to me. So I just want to close the gap there and, reassure, yes, there is definitely a correlation between people not having a roof over their head or wondering when their next roof is coming, and depression and anxiety. And that leads to just inability to work. And when they do get housing, and if it's not around forever, there's an inability to pay rent. And there's job security that people lose because they're so stressed out about not having a roof. So it definitely all correlates. And that's kind of why I'm here today. I just wanted to educate myself and wondered how BED and you all work together and how I can be of assistance because I think it's really important for the community that they have an advocate. Because I think what's starting to happen is anyone's too, not afraid, but they don't want to come forward for obvious reasons. So I just was curious about how that all happens, and that's why I'm here today.
Okay.
Thank you.
Project and who's in charge of it. Remember?
Yeah.
It's like yeah.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, an inventory. So it'll give you, if Millie, someone can email it to her, you can find it in town hall. It'll give you an idea of like which project goes with which housing situation. And we do all try to work together, but because they were done by each different one, they all have different rules and regulations. And I think that form actually says some of that information too.
Is it off the table to collaborate with, at least maybe getting some stakeholders involved to collaborate with?
We always want to collaborate.
Yeah.
But like I said, each development has different who did it. Like the housing board was only formed 12 years ago.
Right.
So some of them were done way before, and it kind of gives you who did what. And we're always looking at that and hearing from people at different places and trying to collaborate. So, but that will help you understand which housing project goes with which organization.
Yeah.
Essentially, BED is responsible for most.
A lot of
Right.
Yeah.
You know, we only have the the Cherry Hill,
Yep.
5 houses.
Yep.
2 on Coast Guard Road, and the Bakers Hill 2. So BED is responsible for the bulk of the housing. They've done the lion's share. We have, tried to cooperate and collaborate with them as much as possible, but they do have their own rules and regs, and we have no authority for enforcement on any of those
Right.
programs.
No, and I totally get
Yeah.
that. I think more than anything, like the historical context is very important, obviously. But I'm trying to find a path forward.
Yeah,
Well, most
too.
recently, because we're in the process of trying to find funding, and have come up, at some dead ends, in dealing with the state. But there were some very, positive programs that the state had that I thought would apply to East Earl's Ball. So I have been in touch with,
Okay.
Jim Thorne and, Jerry Pierce within the last 3 weeks, giving them names, numbers, people to contact, where I think that there could be some money, because I know that East Earl's Ball in particular needs some significant repair.
Mhm.
So we are trying to, pass on information and be supportive. We had a, conversation last week with, a development group who was very interested in, the bed project being right next to our project at, West Side Road. Jim Hinthorn was on that phone call, on that Zoom. So we are trying to, assist them,
Mhm.
as we can. But a lot of this is coming down to funding sources. I think
Right.
Fed is running into that same
Yeah.
stone wall.
I think more than anything, the handful of folks that and again, I know it's not your arena. I would love to be a conduit for you guys, is why I'm here. If I could put the pieces together, if Bed is willing to work with me as well. I think there's just, as there is with everything, a lack of meaningful communication around how everyone's working together. And I think if the community sees that, it would be more beneficial for all of us, Bed, what you're doing, and what I'm doing separately from all of this. So I'm here to help. I would like to move forward. If it means taking on an extra meeting and being a stakeholder in, hey, can you guys check that out? Can you guys go in that direction? Can we all come back together and see what we come back with? Because the hardest and the most challenging thing is we can't all do it alone. So I'm just I listen to the people, trying to advocate for them, and path forward is all I'm saying. So thank you.
I do, I mean, I don't know how everyone else feels, but I mean, I do feel like if people are not getting anywhere with the organization that they're supposed to do, that you bringing it to us, not, even though we don't have the authority, maybe, we can help in some way. Like,
Yeah, I
wouldn't
just
want
think
it to
we
be-
all got to get together and break.
I want people to feel like that the housing board is, there for them as well.
And I think if
Yeah.
they see everyone working together,
Mhm.
they will feel that way.
Yeah.
We could say it all we want, but
Yeah, it just has to be clear that we don't have like the authority to
Totally.
do anything.
it's
But
just a
just-
conversation.
yeah.
Like, hey, are you
If they're
guys
not
doing
getting
it
any-
right?
yeah.
Are you doing it right? Are we all doing it right? Are we doing the right thing?
I think to big perspective, historically, every single, building project has, rules and regulations,
Mhm.
has different deed restrictions. And, as we've gone down the road, it's become very clear to our board, the importance of, from this day forward,
Right.
that the easements and the restrictions and the way that, resale, programs are set up should all be consistent,
Mhm.
and they aren't.
Uh-huh.
And that's a big
Undertaking.
problem
Yep.
that we had. And hindsight is 2020. But I think from, moving forward, we know that they do need to be consistent. And there's a fair amount of variation,
Yeah.
from project to project on how they were set up.
And lastly, I just think if we share information historically, then we can all learn from what went wrong and went
Oh, yeah.
awry, and then that way we can,
That's kind of the reason we put that whole thing together.
yeah.
Sort of
Okay.
put everything together in one and see what all the rules were. Because I think we were deciding on Cherry Hill Lane. So we did all that, so we would have the research of each project and what they were.
I'm here to help. I can advocate. I can I can speak for the people if you want, whatever. I just wanted to put it on your radar, and I want to help in any kind of way and collaborate and force collaboration.
Thank you.
Whatever. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Al.
Sure.
First of all, let me just make a motion. Sure. I think we should make a motion to move agenda item 9 to now. Unless you're okay with what we're doing right now? Because that is agenda item number 9, right?
Yeah.
Make a motion.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we move agenda item number 9 to now for discussion. I think. Oh.
I'll second that. I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, thanks. That's just the paperwork of the of the regulations. Do you feel you have enough experience in this matter to develop a list of maybe of the 5 most pressing issues or needs for the community with respect to mental illness, services and housing? And why I'm asking is, as Cindy said, you know, we're not doing very well in funding right now. And not only do we need to serve a need, but it might provide a mechanism for people to provide funding to us. Some of the grants I've looked at, I can say that getting into the community of the disadvantaged is consistently a high need issue in the grants I've looked at. So I'm wondering if you've had enough time to make a list of the most pressing needs that you see here.
I wouldn't say that, no. I'm at this role for 7 months. I know the community well. I know the needs enough, but I'm not a mental health professional by any means. And in order to, I think, assess that, a survey maybe, just something along those lines. But no, I wouldn't feel comfortable as being an expert in it.
Are there people here in the community that you think could serve in that capacity?
You could outreach, we could outreach some counselors that work with the community. Maybe they would have a good concept of it. But, you know, I think that just in general, there are vulnerable people on the island that need help. And I don't know if I'm saying anything that's a big secret. And I do think not all of their situations have to do with housing, but some of them do, perhaps.
Why I ask for this question is that I, you know, for probably like 6 years, I've become acutely aware, for me, that the relationship between mental illness, you know, therapy needs and housing on Block Island, and how I think they're very strongly correlated. The stress that you discussed, the uncertainty of the housing situation here has parlayed itself into all kinds of behavior, and that is not very helpful to one's life, I think. And it's really hard to avoid it when you don't know where you're going to be living in the next 3 months, and that happens every 3 months. So creating a stable living environment has been done by other communities to address mental health issues and economics. And by providing stable housing situations, the first thing they decide to do with the people in their programs is provide stable housing. And then the benefits from that are multifunctional, and how they help the people, you know, improve their life situation. So I thought, you know, given your position, that it would be good to bring that front and center to the housing board. So as far as coordination, I mean, I just think there's a good idea is that we see if we can meet with the other existing boards, committees, and see if there is something in common that we can do and how we communicate. Because they're kind of like separate ships floating in their own direction. So we'll have to see if that can be done. And the the table of information that Rosemary talked about, that was sent to the bulletin board. I sent that in preparation for this meeting. So if you look on the bulletin board, if you keep don't delete everything, you should find an attachment that has that information. So
Okay.
it's a Word document.
I think, just going back to something you said, a lot of stress and anxiety and all of that relates to lack of communication. When I was hired, one of the interviews said, you need to work on communication. And that keeps popping up, meaningful communication. We don't have enough of it. That's why I say, can you guys somehow work with all these other people that have the same goal in mind, because we don't have enough communication. And, even cold calling Westwood Estates, just asking how to fill out an application to be on the wait list. First question I asked was, how many people are on it? And they don't know where they stand, the 20 souls that are on. So there's 16, and none of them know where they stand. So I think, for me personally, that's why I get back to everybody. I don't have an answer for you right now, but when I do, I'll call you. I don't have an answer, but when I call, when people know that they're being cared for, or you just always have to get back to them. And I don't think there's enough of that. And that's why some stress and anxiety is bubbling up. So that could eliminate a problem just straight out of the gate. Yeah, if you ask me. But I am no expert in mental illness at all. I wish I could say I was, but I don't have a certification in that. Maybe one day. Does that help?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Allison.
Along the lines of this conversation, would we entertain an idea of reaching out to talk to anybody in our locale that is a professional in this area that just talk to us about this? Again, it's concerned for the people, and also it may help us generate funding if we can address those issues based on what I've been reading. Based on what I've been reading and, these grant applications, if we can demonstrate that we are pursuing this type of reasoning, I think it would be a great benefit to us and to the island. So I don't know if that is something of interest, but I would like to put it out there that we pursue that.
Right.
I'm sorry I came in late. I had a different time on my schedule, but
So did I.
so what would you imagine, Chris, like contacting someone at the state level or someone in the hospital to give us some background on this issue statewide? I don't know if there's anyone on the island that can give us that input, but maybe someone, medical expert elsewhere in the state.
I guess we should start maybe high and work our way down. The state may have access to people we don't know about that serve this area regionally. There's some advocacy groups for South County called South County that, may be in that area of providing those services. I don't know, but I think starting high and seeing we can work our way down to more local is probably the better strategy rather than starting local, which I think is going to be a hard thing to do because of confidentiality and those kind of things.
Yeah.
Well, the medical center does have more services than they have in the past now. So, I mean, maybe even starting with them. They have connections with Butler now, and they might just want to even try that.
Well, can we put that to a motion to inquire of the medical center? And I don't know who in the state we would ask.
What are we inquiring exactly?
The link between affordable housing and mental health issues. We think we know, we don't have any experts. Can we solidify that is what I was thinking.
If I may interject, is there a goal that you're looking to accomplish by getting that information? Like, would it help you with a grant?
I think, well, it cannot hurt. And it is something that I think we should incorporate into our thinking process. So, two things. Yes, being in need of money, it would be a good thing to do, but that's not definitely the sole reason. The sole reason is to serve our community.
I think we all could agree, and I'm just speaking from my side of things. I think we could all agree that housing is definitely a void, and it definitely does affect some people's mindset. I could certainly look for you and see where I go with it at a state level. I can contact some of my contacts and resources just for the heck of it. But I think, again, like your easiest fix, from my point of view, is communication. It really is. I see it left and right. And I will say that I probably have this many surveys sitting on my desk from years past, and I don't know where they ever went. So there could be something in there as well if I go through them. So all I'm saying is we have a lot of surveys. We've got a lot of ideas. I just think pushing forward immediately would be a communication moment. I would look for this for you guys and look into it and see if I can find someone that would be certified to come out here and do that. But I do think we have a lot of resources in-house of information that has been overlooked throughout the years with change of town managers, change of people in these seats. And again, I think a very quick fix for the public and the community would just be communicating in a different way, you know? I mean, not for nothing, you guys are boring. Let's have some fun. And I think kind of communicating in a different way to get it out there. I don't know if it's a fair or something with the bed board and you guys, and just, you know, saying, hey, look, we've got this going on. Who needs housing? Come on in, let's talk about it. And I think it would make a huge impact because they would say, oh, you know what? These people are working on it. I'm going to let it be for a minute. Maybe my brain can rest.
Mhm. Yeah,
Mhm. Mhm. Who's doing the website for you guys?
we don't know
We
yet.
haven't got that.
I'm kidding. It's a lot of work is all my
I mean,
point is.
what you're saying is important, and we've talked about it a lot in the meeting of getting all of the organizations together. I do think just to have an out meeting would just be confusing because we'd all be talking about
Correct.
housing. I do
Correct.
think if we could put together like 3 goals and get it out to the other boards and say, you know, these are situations we want to talk about, and then maybe they come prepared. And then we do have like a little housing summit or something like that. But it has to be organized. Otherwise, it's just going to be
And
another
also, I really
conversation about the fact that we need housing.
I feel like a very big deal in something like that would be having one person to speak per group.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like organize it in an outline so that everyone's talking about
So that not everyone's
same
bum rush.
3
you know.
topics we need to talk about.
I'm just,
you know.
I could help organize that is my only point.
Yeah.
Just reading between the lines here, what I'm hearing, the subtitle is that there are people currently in housing situations on the island that are having some issues that they don't feel heard about.
Mhm.
That's one thing.
Mhm.
And then the second thing are the people that are anxious to get into housing
Mhm.
and they're not sure
How
what the
to.
process is, you know, what are my chances? How optimistic is this?
Cool.
So I think that 2 things, we could be more clear, Bed could be more clear about what the chances of openings are at East Earls Ball. You know, that information has to come from them. We could be more communicative, and we are when we have a project that's poised, but we're not there yet.
Mhm.
So, you know, we can't be promising people things that we're not
Right.
ready for. But I think in terms of the rental housing, that's a situation where if you have some specific issues. I have a great relationship with Jim Hinthorn, with Jerry Pierce, you know, maybe we could have a subset
Right.
group and try to say, okay, what are the issues and how can we respond to those?
Okay.
Other than that, I think, you know, it's pretty obvious, mental health is definitely impacted by one's housing. And our job is to create some housing. That's how we are gonna best help. So I don't want us to get so diffuse, you know, that we're going down a path of, you know, talking to mental health experts. We need to
Right.
build houses.
Right.
But if we can help solve, you know, and be a catalyst to get those conversations
That's it.
going, happy to.
I think that's it. And I'll figure out a way how, if that works.
Yeah.
I mean, Josh's point of the website, and we're getting that together so that people have a source to go to. to understand it all,
Mhm.
you know, and hopefully on that website will be explained.
I think it's
you know.
great. I just know how much work it does to put the content into a
Yeah.
website, so.
But if you've got, you know, some specific issues.
Yep,
Then let's call a meeting with some
Okay.
bedrest and.
Yeah,
you
I
know,
think
sit
that's a great
down,
idea.
See what we can hash out.
And I think that will solve some of what you're thinking,
Yeah.
Chris. I really do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Allison, just,
thank you.
we can work, feel free to, we can work together on getting that meeting together. I mean, or just a sub meeting. Yeah, no, happy to.
And I'd be happy to, you know.
Yeah,
Great.
thank you.
Thanks for your efforts. We appreciate it. Okay, to move on? Then let's take a look at December 17th minutes.
There was an, you want to speak on that?
So there was a little snafu with the minutes. I don't know if you saw if everybody saw the second,
Mhm.
well, the email that I sent out this afternoon.
I did.
Okay,
I did too. My boat reading.
so that's the set that we'll be approving this afternoon. Sorry about the mix up.
Okay. So we have the open minutes of December 17th in front of us. Any?
I didn't see anything, but I'm not good with grammar, so. Yeah, me too.
I'll make a motion to approve, and then we can go
Okay,
from
there's
there
a-
to make changes.
There's a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? I did get the corrected copy, but I did not get a chance to really read through it.
Continue that to the next meeting.
And I'm just looking, I had a few things that I think have been corrected, but would you rather table this and go over it next meeting?
We'll get more time.
Okay, all
All right,
right,
I'll withdraw my motion.
okay, so we'll table this till the next meeting when everybody has a chance to read it carefully. Okay, very good. Financial reports? Next item.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second,
Motion has been made. There's a second. Further discussion?
No changes, no large changes being made unexpected based on discussion that we had with Neeland. Our interest rate is just about where, you know, it's not rich. What we're getting on our money is reasonable.
is there
further
any,
question?
there was nothing in there about what we've gotten from the housing, the 1%.
So we've gotten about 78,000 so far. We've sent out only the first. Well, of course, we sent out the first, notice for the 1% tax.
And do we know how it compares to last year?
I haven't done the numbers against
Okay.
last year, but, we have gotten, well, also noted that a lot of the people that rented last year, have been coming back as no rentals. So I don't know if, you know, what the situation is.
I still get a lot of people that think it's an option. So I don't know how,
What's our enforcement?
0.
yeah.
Is that something that we want to take under consideration? I think, we could review the returns coming in. And between you and I, we probably could have a pretty good sense of a good percentage of people that we know should be sending returns in.
Well, I feel like maybe since this whole rental ordinance is new, maybe that can coincide because it would make sense if they're already doing some sort of rental ordinance.
Yeah, the
they're-
short-term rental, we could use.
And they're getting that
data from the
list,
Short-term
maybe
rental.
combine it with the 1%. So we're doing combining efforts because instead of starting a whole new thing, they're already doing it and tracking everyone. So if we had a list, maybe at some point, there can be some sort of, you know, enforcement of the 1%, or maybe just the next, sometimes people need an explanation. I know we tried to do that on one of the forums and then it got too long. But to understand what it's about, or maybe the website will help with that. You can go there and look, what is it about? Why should I do this?
The
you know.
form that went out this year, felt different to me. I liked it. My initial reaction was I liked it. It was clean.
Yeah.
It was nice. But there was some sentence in it that when I read it, it made it sound optional.
Yes.
It made it sound optional. So we should take a look at that form and make sure that it's very clear. This is a tax.
I mean,
that is due.
Yeah. I mean, it's gotta
And
be like
payable.
what's the 1% all about?
Yeah.
It's about this, it's about helping your,
Well,
Neighbors.
Oh,
people-
we had
Yeah.
that in the past and
Yeah.
that, I think it just got too cumbersome. People didn't,
Yeah.
you wouldn't want to read.
well, we
all
had the
of it, just find out
confusion
what
because
you were
the
doing.
state, remember, the state came in
That's-
with the
I
1%.
think that is what's confusing people.
And people still get confused about that.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought I paid the 1% already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't blame them.
Yeah.
So a couple of things, but Keisha, you just said people rented that last year, but came back with negative responses. So
Yes.
you have some data that indicates something.
Yes.
Okay, so we should access that. I don't know what then to do with it, but we need to, whatever mechanism we create to enforce this 1% or to just
I-
illuminate it.
I think we need to I think we need to combine, you know, again, communication with this rental ordinance situation and our 1%. Because
Right, so
they
this-
go together,
The second point is
the
that
same kind of tallying.
Jen Brady's
Yeah.
been sending out notices to the
Yeah.
bulletin board on the short-term rental.
Mhm.
So something similar maybe
So we
should go
could
out by us.
I think it might be too confusing to bring it in now. I think within the next year before it comes up again, I think we need to, I think it's overwhelming for people right now with the rental ordinance and then to, you know, kind of slide in the 1% there. I do think within the next year, when it comes up again, we should collaborate with the,
Actually, I don't think it's a
rental.
bad idea, Mark.
Yeah,
I'm
I-
sorry,
Yeah.
Rosemary, but I think that it's probably a good idea. We can just, it's out there, you have,
combine them.
you have has your one, I know you've applied for your short-term, your short-term rental ordinance, if you rented last year, then you have to pay your 1% tax. Or,
It should be a
some sort of
checkbox
that.
on the thing, like maybe the form that they fill out. Did you pay your 1%
Mhm.
housing tax? You know,
What form is that?
is there something you fill out online?
It's an online form. There might be a timing issue with that because you need to be registered for the upcoming year, essentially by January 1st. And yet you probably haven't paid your tax for the previous year at the time that you're doing your short-term rental. I mean, unless there was to be some shifting in the short-term rental ordinance application process. But I think right now, I mean, it's something that we can keep in mind because we're kind of keeping a list of issues with short-term rental, because it's brand new. So we're trying to kind of figure that out. But I think it's not a bad idea to try to send out something on the bulletin board.
And I think it would also be good to review what the returns they're coming in,
Mhm.
Keisha.
Okay.
So we could set up a time, just to eyeball it, would be
Mhm.
good to see.
Well, and it might be good for,
What's coming in because, and this is, the returns that we are getting are for 2023. The rental registration is for 2024. So it's not gonna be till
Mhm.
the end of the year that those two things start to
Well,
line up.
2025.
25, yeah.
24.
That starts to line up.
Yeah, so maybe
so-
when they go,
but I
for
think it
January,
would-
did you pay your 2025 rental tax, 1%? You know what I mean? I
Yeah,
feel like,
right, just have it.
I feel like easier for them too, so that they're not confused by all of these things that are going on with Renter World.
Well, the other thing too is, I've said this before and I would love to have somebody pick this ball up. In my office, we do an end of the year accounting, obviously, before we send out 1099s. So we send our customers a worksheet that says, this is what we collected on your behalf. This
Yeah.
is what your total rent was.
We do the same thing.
And then we do the computation, and here is what your
Your
1% fee is due to the town of New Shoreham. and it goes on that worksheet to everybody. You've
Do
done
all-
the math for them, you've reminded them. They know that it's their obligation.
Do all agents do that? Do all?
I don't know. You said yours.
We do, yeah.
Yours does.
When
You-
we
so-
send it out in end of September.
Yep.
And they normally ask for me again.
Does it
in
spell out the
December. So
1%?
next
you
year,
spell out the 1%.
next year, we're gonna resend it automatically.
And does yours spell out the 1% on that worksheet?
No,
Oh, see,
we could.
Yeah,
Yes,
that
on
might
the
be
bottom,
interesting to
you
add.
say.
Well, it comes from we talk about it in the email, but ours comes from an Excel sheet, so it's not something, like, we actually get a printout of what we've sent them, the money we've sent them,
Mhm.
so.
But you might, I mean, you could just do another
Yeah.
line on the worksheet, I mean, on the,
I mean,
Excel
what would be
spreadsheet
great
that
is
would
for us to combine your sheet, town sheet, while we do the email.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean? Here's
Yeah.
the money you made, here's the sheet to fill out for the town, and send it in one email.
I'm gonna throw out one more thing here,
And maybe we could encourage all the other agents to do it as well.
I think we should put
Yeah.
some pressure on the other agencies to
Mhm.
do it.
I mean, if we had the form, we could send it out with it, because it's not a big deal to do the attachment.
So it's the responsibility of the homeowners to.
Yes.
mail
For the
it,
1%.
the Realtors don't collect it for them.
No, because
No.
we already collect it for the state and the town. So
So
we
on that-
collect 8% and 1% comes to Block Island from the state.
yeah.
People get
it's
that
very
confused.
confusing. It's very confusing.
Yeah.
There's so many, now there's so many people dipping into the pie.
And it's gonna get worse,
Right.
campers.
So
Yeah.
I want.
That's why I feel like if we combine it for them, they'll feel less bombarded
Mhm.
by the rental ordinance, the 1%, the housing, boom, boom, boom. If we all combine it and work together,
Mhm.
then they're getting one-stop shopping. I go to
Yeah.
town hall, town website, and I pay my tax, I sign up for my rental ordinance, boom, 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 I'm done. People are busy.
I think that should be the goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm not, I also think it's not bad to just roll out bulletin board notices
Oh, yeah.
once in a while, just to remind people and get it on their
Yeah.
brains, so that when we do combine it, there isn't any surprise.
Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and do that. I mean, that.
Is
that
there a
works.
link that they click on to pay it for that form?
We'll
The
come up.
forms were all mailed out. I
The,
don't know
the
if there's-
forms were mailed out by, and each named homeowner. But we can maybe put a blank, a blank one on as an attachment in case somebody has
Yeah.
misplaced theirs.
And
But
I
yeah.
think the other thing that people get confused about is every homeowner is supposed to return it, whether or not
Yes,
they rent.
yes,
So if you didn't rent your house,
Yes.
you put 0.
yes.
If you did rent your house, you put the amount and send the check. And I think some people just get that and say, oh, I didn't rent my house, throw it out.
Can I suggest something? What's so much easier for a person nowadays, because mail is definitely, unfortunately out.
Mhm.
Maybe, like, I just got a post office renewal and there's a thing you go, or even the ethics thing that we get, you go online. And like, I get it in the mail and I'm like, oh, I go right online and do it right there, so I don't forget it in my
Yeah.
pile of mail. Maybe
Yeah.
we coordinate something like that where there's a link to go right online, pay the 1% with your credit card, boom.
I know.
know?
Yes, it's. it's-
Well, cause
right.
like then
The
you read,
problem
like,
is we don't have, right now, we don't have any of we
yeah,
don't take the credit cards. We don't, we're still really a paper office. We've talked about
Mhm.
moving from that. But we're not there yet. So
Okay.
I'll keep
maybe a
that-
goal.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Cause
It's
it is
definitely a goal.
easier when you get it in the mail, like that ethics thing, you fill it right out and you're done.
Yep.
Instead of forgetting it in your mail pile and then getting reminded or.
It goes already.
Can-
I
Can
think
I
so.
ask just,
I don't remember.
Yeah, no, they went out in December.
Like your license renewals like
Oh,
that
yeah.
now, everything's like that.
Yeah,
Either I did it.
you
and I've
probably,
forgotten,
you probably did it. It might have even been, November, December. I have just one thing that just jumped into my mind while we're talking about this. There is a bill, a new bill out there that it proposes adding the hotel tax to short-term rentals. Our legislation, I'm just thinking
I
this
have
as
it
we're
on
sitting
our
here.
agenda, in my,
Oh,
we were gonna discuss that, when we talk about funding.
okay,
really gonna
we'll
screw us.
hold on that one, but that could cripple
Yeah,
our legislation right there, because what exempts people from paying our tax is that if they don't pay hotel tax, they're required to pay our tax. So if all of a sudden everybody has to pay hotel tax, where are we?
Right.
I just had a quick process question. You just said, so the notice that we just got about paying the 1% was for the 2023 rentals?
2024.
I missed.
Twenty-
Yeah,
okay.
she, yeah,
24.
she got her
Yeah.
number.
Yeah.
I don't know what time it is. I don't know what.
We're in
year.
2025.
So obviously I'm having trouble.
I was
Thanks,
under-
Allison.
Bye, thank you.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Alice.
Thanks, Allison. I was under the impression that the short-term rental procedure would capture the people that owe us the 1%.
It should.
It should.
Okay, so
Should.
I agree
But
that we
it's
should
no-
let that play out.
But I don't think that they know that they correlate. I don't, like, that's the problem, is I think the public, the rental, the
Yep.
owners don't know that those two things go together, and that's where we need to try to make
Yeah.
it work.
So there is no process to do that yet, and there is no, at this point, staff to do that yet. And that is a reality, is that we've added this short-term rental, which is the 500 licenses, to an existing staffing structure. And that does not give any room for any of those extras right now.
Right.
That may change with this upcoming budget year, but that's a reality. So I don't want you to think that, oh, well,
I just feel like we can't let it be forgotten that the 1% correlates with that.
and I think that.
You know what I
if
mean?
we
Like,
ha- if
They go together.
if we can, in in the clerk's office, find some, extra time, that's not the word, but, it's the headspace for that, we might be able to take that on as a project, but I just want to be clear
Yeah.
that that's.
Right.
not-
There
I
was
mean, I do
always-
think the
there's
town needs.
It was
to-
always seen enforcement as a resource issue. And when we were developing the new language that, we needed enforcement, and then the question was, well, who's going to be the enforcing agent? And one of the town council members said, well, it has to be somebody off island because nobody on the island's going to do that. And we disagreed with that person regarding that. So enforcement has been talked about, and without enforcement, we said there'd be very little chance of full compliance. The other thing is, why can we not require real estate agents that are renting homes on behalf of people to collect the tax as part of their service and then send the money to us on behalf of their client? That would just save the step of it going right to the client forgetting it or choosing not to pay it. But if the real estate agents are noting that this is what you owe, we have removed it from, your income. And here's the tax that went to the town. By the way, it's deductible. So I think that's an option that we should be talking to the town about, and having the real estate entities collect that tax. And also, I think we should be doing, in developing the legislation changes, we just went on the internet. I could find everybody that was renting their homes through a service. So it would be good to correlate those people with who are paying the taxes.
Yeah, that would all be part of the enforcement process.
Yeah, and that's,
but-
so.
They
that-
are,
that-
they are.
That's
So
not
I just want to
fair.
make sure that.
And I think that
Love
would,
that.
it would take a couple hours, but I don't think it would take, 2 days. I think we could get at least a cursory sense of what the compliance rate is.
It would be a good hourly wage for somebody it'd be worth paying somebody to do it because of the income that's probably being missed.
Are we restricted by hiring someone as the housing board? Like, is there a restriction against us
I
getting?
don't believe.
No.
Don't believe.
No, we would just need.
I mean, I talked about this before in Conservancy, PIC, we ended up doing so much with accreditation and all that we ended up hiring someone to do this stuff for us as a, 20-hour-a-week job. And it gave someone a year-round job, and, we get interns sometimes involved in it, and
All of our money that we make a year would go to paying it.
not, I mean, probably, but I
Well, I
mean,
mean,
maybe
on a
not
temp-
20 hours,
temp
but
basis
something.
or something.
I just think it's something that we
Well-
should talk about in the future.
Historically, we have always had a very high compliance rate with the number of returns.
Yeah,
And we know how many went out, how many envelopes went out, how many envelopes came back. And I can't quote, but I do believe it's been consistently a very high return rate. And let's not be so naive as to think that, you know, everybody complies. But it's been historically a very high return rate, which has been why, one of the reasons why we've never been aggressive on the collection issue. But I think, you know, enough time has gone by, we should check in every once in a while and see how we feel.
Probably more people rent privately now than they do through the realtors.
There still
Yeah.
should be,
Well, but then it might be easier to hide. Like, you're kind of on there, you are aware of who
right, but I
owns
mean,
it, but
just as the town will probably be looking at the rental platforms, Airbnb, VRBO, to make sure, you know, because that's pretty quantifiable,
yeah.
and make sure that they're getting returns or licenses from all of those folks. If you're advertising on the internet, you should be.
I mean, is the 1% a real, like, it's not an option? Cause I thought when it first started, it was an option. So
No, it's
how come
mandatory.
if you don't pay it, you're not fined by taxes
Well,
or?
there should be, you know, that's a good point. Why don't we have a penalty of accrued interest when, you know, we find out, or it's found out that you didn't pay your fee?
And I think the legislation actually does speak to penalty. and
Can
fines.
I just recommend that we put this on the next agenda
Okay.
to discuss, because I think we're really, you know,
Yeah.
going down a rabbit hole, and I think there's a lot to talk about here.
Okay.
And then we can maybe come a little more prepared.
Okay, so the issue of compliance, payment of the 1% compliance. So we should look at our form, advertising, and
And combining it.
I think maybe just processes related to our 1% tax.
Yeah. that
Because it's
makes sense.
both reporting back to us on what the compliance is, as well as enforcement mechanisms and that stuff. So I think a
Yeah,
general
compliance,
discussion
enforcement.
process on 1% tax.
And I think, Chris, you had a motion on the floor to approve the financials before we
yeah.
dug
I
into
think
that.
we were
Sorry.
Second too.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
okay. Financials, are we good?
Yes.
All those in favor? Opposed? So voted. Thank you. Okay. Discuss and act on promoting 513s and subsidies. In my mind, this kind of morphs with item number 6, Weston Sampson Planning Board collaboration. At the last planning board presentation, I think Chris, or was it you, Mark, that was there? I can't remember. Somebody was, we were there. And the planning board was hoping to schedule a work session with us to try to hone in on some of the issues with 513s. To see how we can work together, and whether through legislation and ordinances, or creative ideas. So
Have you heard anything?
I have not heard of a date set,
Mhm.
but I'll double check with Margie and make sure it's still on her.
Okay. Did you get any kind of response from Weston and Sampson from your letter? Or is that, assuming that's just kind of was setting the stage for this meeting?
I think
This
so.
collaborative meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Anybody have anything else to add to that agenda item?
Is that gonna become a link on the website as well? All the 513 information?
Yeah, it should.
I think so, yes.
Just look, I don't
Mhm.
see it on this,
Yeah, we'll get there. Actually, it's the next, no, it's not the next item.
Coming-
There's a
coming up,
couple of
yeah.
items down and we can then talk about that. How's that sound?
I guess the only thing I would add to this number 4 is that pending the planning board discussion, it might be good for us to have a small subcommittee just for people to brainstorm ideas on 513s and subsidies, which I think is a big part of this, to incentivize homeowners to create more 513s. So if we can have a couple of people, maybe at the next meeting, we'll set up a subcommittee to, after the planning board discussion, to get on with that. I think that would be a good idea.
After the workshop with the.
Yes,
Okay.
after the workshop with
All right, then let me poke Margie and see if she set a date. Okay, moving on. Microgrid application. Chris, you want to bring us up to speed?
Yeah, unfortunately, Lord Voldemort, AKA Donald Trump,
I read the letter, I was like, oh god.
has put his policy into effect. And will send this email to the housing board, to the town, and to the power company. That grant is on freeze right now. And based on what I've been hearing from Washington, there's a good chance that's not going to be coming back to life. So anyway, at this point, you'll receive an email from me that I received from the state saying that it's on hiatus, basically.
Well, thank you
Like
for
a
your
Dear John
efforts.
letter.
Yeah. glad to have you.
Yeah.
We're
Sure,
never
they're sending-
coming back.
I think they're sending out a lot of.
I don't know if it's appropriate, but if, there's been a lot of, and understandably, there's been a lot of not understanding what this was about, and I tried to explain it. I don't know if you want to take the time now, or maybe it's inappropriate since the thing isn't going to happen, but if you do have questions on it, just get in touch with me on it, and I can explain this to you. I tried to do it through a couple emails as, informational emails, but I realize unless you work in this profession, it's a very bizarre thing.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank
If
you.
it gets resurrected, we'll talk again about it.
Wait, you have to wait 4 years.
Yeah. maybe. Okay, website for the housing board. How we doing?
Well, Chris, go ahead. You did the RFP, so.
Yeah, I did the RFP. I have received no edits, nothing. So
I think before we talk, I think we need to talk about the fact, I thought that the last time we discussed this, we were gonna set the RFP aside and use the town's website for, security compliance and that kind of thing. That was the last thing that I remember on this. And so then I picked up the ball again after kind of confirming, is that where we're gonna go to work with, our
No.
local consultant, IT consultant.
Right, because we were talking about the compliance things that have to be on the public.
Yeah, that
Website.
had to do with security,
Accessibility or something.
yeah.
that my memory was that's not the case, that we would incorporate, or that part of it could be done through working with the town's consultant. But I don't recall any discussion of shelving our own website. It was an integration with the town on security. For really, it was on the people putting in their names and their information to get basically into the database and how we would secure that. And I thought that's what the town's person was about. And also the compliances that you had given to us, which was written into the RFP. So we have a misunderstanding of this, and we got to straighten that out. Because I was trying to get us to have this ready by March. So, and I've seen nothing from that person that, other than the form, but I don't know if they would incorporate what we had done as a draft, so don't want to keep taking steps backwards.
I wasn't there, but.
We did.
the last meeting I was at was the November meeting. And I think at that meeting, we asked Rosemary and Chris to go off and
Right.
deliver the product. I think they delivered. Now, I don't know if it went so far as an RFP. I don't recall. I'd have to go back and look at those minutes.
Just a draft.
So that being said, I mean, I looked at all the material that's here and it seems like a really solid start.
Mhm.
I had been assuming that our website would be linked to the town website and vice versa.
Yeah.
And of course, I think the compliance stuff is really, it's a necessity, right? So I don't know where that leaves us. So Millie, do you think this is not a good starting point, or should all this material go to the town developer? Well, how's that gonna, how will that work? Should we show the town developer this draft RFP and then? So they have it. So what were you thinking?
I don't know. I mean, I kind of started out working with the town's developer, then was pulled off of that because we're gonna go out with the RFP. And then from what I understood from some a discussion at the meeting and emails between, like, I guess it was Jerry Noonan and some other people, that I was going to, and I think, well, I recall sending out an email confirming, do you want me to go back to the website? And I thought the answer was yes, but you know, hey, my memory might not be serving. And, but I don't know. I mean, I'm just kind of following, following marching orders, so to speak. I feel like if we're going out on our own, I mean, there was concerns from our IT and our, people about doing that, but I don't know the depth of that. And I imagine that there's some kind of security, something that we would want to be incorporating into an RFP. I just didn't realize that's the direction we're
Well,
going in.
for function, let's just talk about practical function. We have, Rosemary and Chris have created a draft. If the town website people are able to use that draft, incorporate it into their program. Do we need to have an RFP in that case? Does it fall under the town's umbrella? Do we have an additional cost? How does that all, how would all that work?
We have a certain number of hours allocated, and from what I understand, that would probably be able to fit into the town umbrella.
Okay. So that's a positive.
I'm gonna be the devil's advocate right now. I appreciate that the town did a new website, but I find it very not user-friendly. And I have to use it a lot for what I do. And it's not that easy to navigate, and I'm really good with computers. So that's where I feel like separating us, I understand that we have to abide by rules and regulations because we're a town entity, but maybe we could just get a list of those and put them into the RFP so that whoever does go for it, I don't know. I worry about someone else. I worry about it being the bottom of the list if other town stuff has to go, where we have someone else that's doing it that isn't at the bottom of the list. And I don't mean to be a jerk about it. It's just that you have to use the website a lot, and I really don't find it that user friendly. And like I said, I'm good with computers.
Is it possible that everything but this database is done by us? And then we throw a link to the town website, to the housing board part of the town website. And this is where you fill in your personal information if security is that much of a concern.
I don't even know if we need the database yet, because we don't have anything to give them.
No, but we need to, I feel we need to know what our,
Yeah.
remember, we don't know what our numbers are.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think we really need.
And so we're trying to get an
An
idea of the scope of the issue. And that was why we wanted to do this.
Yeah,
I
maybe the
thought.
database is linked to the town, and that's where the town gets involved.
And I would be
Like
worried
it's a
about
link. Yeah,
operational
I'll
costs.
determine what the security issues are, and see what.
Well,
I would be okay with that if, us having the basics of our mission and, you know, legislation and stuff like that, and linking to the Block Island housing initiative. And then if the security is a real issue, which I believe you're correct, put that to the town, which has the security already embedded in their website.
Yeah, I'll explore that.
And
as
then
well.
that could be super helpful for them because they might find other stuff at the town website that is helpful.
Yeah, no, I mean, we're trying to overhaul that website right now.
Sorry.
because- No, I appreciate, it's all
Yeah.
constructive. It's all constructive. So we're working on that now. I mean, it's basically content.
It's
and
hard. It's
problem.
full of a lot of information. It's
Yeah.
hard to navigate, you know,
And it's got
for everyone. Yeah.
four pages, yeah.
When we look at,
So maybe, Chris, we add to the RFP that it has to link, you know, that we have to work with the
Why don't we
stipulations
wait
of
and let me
town.
get some feedback on
Okay.
that? And then we can,
Okay.
then you can then we can determine whether we're going to be including some kind of security, something in the RFP, or whether we will be addressing that form separately, just from the town website. But let me just explore what the actual issues are.
And can we do it
What-
before the next meeting?
Yeah,
Can we do
that's-
that
yeah.
in between so that we're not waiting for
Yeah,
next
I
meeting?
I can do this. I'm gonna be traveling quite a bit in February, so I'm gonna try to do it before. I
Yeah,
go.
I'm leaving the end, so yeah, we could
just,
get it done.
just a broad question. What is considered to be, sensitive or personal information?
Income.
We don't ask for income.
We did in the survey.
Read this.
Oh, no.
No. I don't think anybody, I don't think your draft or their draft. I
I
mean,
think you
it
said,
says estimated monthly housing budget.
That's right.
We
yeah,
gotta be
yes.
careful about fraud.
You're right.
But
Fraud is, you know,
I'm
people
just
are.
wondering, what we're not asking for anybody's social security number. We, obviously, we're capturing their name and address and.
I think you even had a note in there that said, should this go forward, you will have to give us that sensitive information.
Yeah,
That's what
But
Jerry
that's later,
was
yeah,
asking about.
yeah. So.
yeah, because to me, it seems like we could have
Sign up.
a generic questionnaire that's not asking for anything sensitive.
Mhm.
Because basically, we want to know, what do we want to know? Do you want housing? Are you looking for a rental or are you looking for a house? And, what size? What's the size? I mean, those are the issues. And as we're trying to plan for building, that we really want to know. And then, once you have a specific project, you would be, I would think, be reaching out to the people on your database individually. We're not talking about 200
This,
people.
this should also have,
you know?
probably have a disclosure that filling this out is not, it's an informational, it's not providing housing kind of thing. Just
But I'm-
Because people,
I'm
we don't want
saying
people
we
to
don't
think that
have
they're
to
filling it
have
out
a
and they're
lot
gonna
of
get housing.
Personal information at the first go around.
Mhm.
We need to be able to contact these people when we've got a project.
Well, I'm sure they would find us, but, there's various ways to get that out. I don't think we should do one-on-one contact, say, hey, we got a project, are you interested?
Mhm.
I feel, what if
Well,
someone
you would,
gets
you would
missed?
have, you would go to your database, you
But what
have
if
their,
someone didn't fill it out?
well, if they've given us their email,
What if someone needs housing, but they don't enter the information?
It would
in
be,
the database?
would all be public. It
Yeah,
would be all be a
wouldn't be
public
advertising.
process. Yeah, that's just, but you do it direct.
Public notice. and all
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. What is sensitive on here is the email and phone number.
email and phone number would be
Those
considered
are,
sensitive.
those, we would redact those
Yeah.
as a temp, for town policy. So that's really the only, and there, whether the monthly I think the monthly housing budget is also
Yeah,
Mhm.
that would be
is sensitive, for sure.
Chris, do we have on, I don't remember from reading it when I read it. Do we have on there that they can click Spanish, English language?
I
You
don't,
know, like on websites, you can click,
I don't recall if I made that change to the
Okay.
RFP, and you did, someone at least mentioned.
We
it,
discussed
and
it.
I don't-
We
I
need
don't
to make
remember
sure
what I
that's
did,
on there.
If anything.
So is there a way that we can move forward with the RFP and have options? So when I responded to RFPs all the time, there were options to respond to this or that. But we want to get the basic website moving as quickly as we can, right? I mean, it would be nice to have it done in the first quarter of this year, if possible.
I think we just need to know what the town, because we are a town board,
Yeah,
we have to add that to make sure that we're complying with what we need to as a
and do we,
town
need-
entity.
when we release RFPs, do we need to have an attorney review it, or what, how's that go?
The attorney usually does review our RFPs, so we're kind of quasi, or, I mean, I think that we have our own, I think that can really be up to us. We have our own attorney for that matter.
What's our?
So the question is, do you think that this rises to the level for our attorney to review?
I'm married to an attorney, and she says an attorney should review everything, but.
Yeah, I know.
It also costs a lot of money.
Well, can we add what the town stipulations might be, or will the attorney be able to do that?
No, the attorney would, no, the attorney would just. be
Okay, so
looking
why
at
don't we
legally.
add what you feel like we might need to add?
I don't have any idea what that is right now, so I really, I don't, this
I know,
isn't, so
okay.
I just need time to do research.
Right,
Right.
but then once we do that, if we can add it to that, and then can we contact the attorney and have them on, that we'll have it for them? So we can get on their agenda, on their schedule?
It's up to the board. I don't know whether they want to.
Or do we feel like we need them to do it? I don't know.
This is out of my area of expertise, so, we started, with the general premise that we needed a website. And we needed a database. Both 100% accurate, and we're way behind the time when we should have done this.
I know, but
So that's where we started. Then, we could have gone with a very simple local person to just, replicate a website that we've seen that we liked. Okay. Now we're gonna make it more expansive and put it out for an RFP. Okay, now we have the whole overlay of the town and how the town interacts with us.
Mhm.
So it's just a question of how do we move forward?
well, we can't
Um,
do it wrong.
Right, so I'm
So,
saying,
I
how do
mean,
we
anything,
move
because
forward?
we're
So I'm-
involved with the town is gonna be complicated because
So
of
I
the
think we
rules.
need to hear from Millie.
Yeah.
And Millie, if you could find out, what the parameters are and what the process is.
Mhm.
Rosemary and Chris have got a lot of content.
Mhm.
And a web designer, I'm sure, will have suggestions to alter that content. So,
I mean, if we don't have to have an attorney review it, then
I
we
don't
shouldn't.
think you need to
I
have an
don't-
attorney,
I don't-
but it's up to
No.
the board, really.
I would say no.
I don't know why we would, especially,
Yeah, well, let me do my due diligence, and then I'll get back to you guys.
So do we, to proceed before the next meeting,
Mhm.
should we make a motion now? So I'll make a motion to ask Chris and Rosemary to proceed with a final RFP pending Millie's feedback on compliance with town requirements.
Perfect.
Second.
it's motion made and seconded.
And
Any
with
further
that,
discussion?
Let me know.
Okay. I just
Like,
think
if you want me to sit with you in the afternoon.
All those in
just
favor?
maybe a couple of conversations.
No, I can't. So I'll make a motion to ask Rosemary and Chris to proceed with the final RFP pending feedback from Millie on compliance with town requirements.
RFP for website services.
I'm sorry, yeah. And then Chris seconded that.
Thank you.
Who do we have designing this website? Do we have someone?
No.
No, that's what
this
That's
is
the
for. That's the
RFP
RFP is
or
for.
the town web designer. It would be one or the other. Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted.
It's still, it's a statement.
Okay. Moving on.
Yeah. Yeah.
All O'Brien property. So, update on the trunk line for spring construction, Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank. We have, the from Bain Transu, a reduced, if you recall, this is a couple months back, reduced, job description to get the trunk line in. So Bain has given us an estimate of $224,700, which would then be deducted from the large full estimate that he previously submitted. And I have a form that I have to give to Bain. We have to submit that and a form about minority business enterprise compliance issues. So I will get that to Bain. And we have to submit that to the Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank compliance people. They also, and Keisha, if you could look at, they're also looking to have us confirm that the original project was advertised and competitively bid in accordance with Rhode Island general law, along with providing a notice of advertisement for confirmation. That would be great.
So
So,
I've been working with Allison Ring.
okay,
I sent her the advertisement
perfect.
and, the locations where they were advertised.
Okay,
So.
so we're good on
I'll
that.
email her and see if there's
Great.
anything else that she needed.
Who wants that?
The Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank Compliance
For the,
Division.
Do we need a motion to move forward with this, or is it this part, kind of part and parcel from our previous
I,
motion?
I think we were covered with this. I'm just
Good.
presenting that
Excellent.
that's where we're at with it, and we're
Mhm.
we're trying to get Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank happy with moving forward with that project. Update from Omni and One Neighborhood. So Omni is still among the missing. I have put in 2 calls to them and not received a call back. One Neighborhood, we did receive a note from them saying intriguing possibilities on Block Island, but sorry, gang, we are not able to work with you at this time. They referred us to a company called CapX. And we've had Rob Grant was on a Zoom call with them. I was not able to be on that call. We had another Zoom call today. It is a company that's been in business since 2005. 85% of their work is with nonprofits. They are a design, construction, development company. And they have worked on projects from $2 million to $100 million. They seem to be all around the country. They do have somebody in Rhode Island. And we had a good discussion today. But I think essentially the same issues that we had in discussion with One Neighborhood Building. Financing is our big problem. How to get enough money, whether we're looking at grants, tax credits, investors. So they are going to talk amongst themselves and get back to us.
I wish we had added church community housing on this.
I thought you were working with them, Chris. Have you got any
Well,
contact
this,
from
just
them?
so I could update.
Oh, well, you can, yeah, because this is
Make a
the,
motion to add church.
Yeah.
I don't think you can do that to the agenda, but I did get, I think you know, you should know this, I hope. I relayed that I got a response back from them asking for more information. I gave them that information, and the one thing that's still outstanding, Cindy, is this paper from a letter from Rhode Island Housing with our deficiencies. And there, I think there are four circles on it with some handwriting. I don't know whose it is, but I had asked if this was yours, and I don't know who wrote this, but only one of the four circles was addressed information that we needed from church. And so do you have any insight as to what those marks were and what the comment was and what's missing?
I'm not sure. Are you talking about the letter, a letter from Rhode Island Housing?
Yes.
The deficient, we did not receive the grant letter?
Right, and I think they were asking questions, they wanted more information, and only one of the four things that were circled was addressed. The other were just circled with no information. So I was trying to get information, responses for church based on the information from the deficiency or the letter that asked for more information. So, you know, this is twice I think I've asked for this. I don't have anywhere to go with it without whoever did this letter with the notations needs to weigh in on what the
Can you,
deficiencies.
Can you produce that? Cause I'm drawing a complete blank, Chris.
Yep.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
We'll try to work it through. Update on the Fidelity grant?
I've had no comments from anybody. Mark has offered comments. But since then I asked for more, no one has responded. So I didn't do any work on it, because I didn't get comments back. So I would like to keep working on this, but I want a motion from the board here to authorize me to keep working on it and to get it into submittable form. And somehow relay that to you and submit it, so I don't get some chatterbox town council member second guessing my work.
Just refresh everybody's memory. The Fidelity grant is a grant to communities that is from just a support grant from Fidelity to various community subsidized projects, correct?
We fit into their business model for grants. I qualified us. Have put quite a bit of information into their online database application form. There were some things that, you know, I wasn't too sure about. Did the best I could. That was all printed out and sent around to everybody, and I just haven't heard back. So I want to keep going. And I understand everybody's very busy. I have more time now than I had, let's say, 5 or 6 months ago. So I have the time to keep working on it. And I think it's been sitting there for so long. It's not a good way to work on a grant, to just have that time lapse, but I would like to get back at it.
Well, I'll make a motion to request that Chris continue to plug away at the Fidelity grant on our behalf.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
Just can you remind us how much is, what amounts are we talking about? What could we be considered?
Yeah, there was one of the questions I had, is like, what are we going for? And how much money can we request? And so that's why I started on the pro forma to
Yeah.
show them, yeah, this is what we're deficit because, you know, this is our income stream and this is what we have in the bank. This is our other possible sources of funding that we're working on. This is all criteria they wanted to see. You know, what are you trying to do to right your ship to make yourselves more viable? We're not just giving out money then to a, you know, a bucket with a hole in it. So I had been trying to like see what is our financial position. It's not good. So so then I didn't know how much to ask for because if, you know, how, my whole thing has been how much money can we generate above and beyond what we're getting, which is a paltry sum for our mission. It's just not, it's not sustainable. We'll never get there and build a appreciable measurable amount of affordable housing, you know, to make an impact on this island with our current situation. So I trying to figure out how to bring in more money to our organization, and then I could get that into the Fidelity grant application saying, this is what we think we will have coming in. It's, you know, obviously we're not making great strides in bringing in money, but I think, you know, that's my priority. So I don't know how to answer that question, Mark. I don't.
Perhaps I'll try to go on the history of these grants and see sort of what order of magnitude Fidelity gives.
They may
so
have a cap.
They have, yeah. So I'll take a look at that and then report that. I'll just send out an email after I do that.
Okay, which segues.
One
beautifully
more
into-
thing, then I'm gonna say that I will not submit the grant because I didn't hear it in the motion. I will not submit the grant until you make a motion to, and it's approved for me to submit this grant. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, one last thing on Paul O'Brien. The zoning board accepted our application for an extension to our zoning decision. Our hearing is February 26th. It should be easy, but that's just the process they have. You apply for the extension and then the next meeting we'll have a hearing. And so that will happen next month.
And is that pretty pro forma? We don't have to make a presentation because they've already seen all the material.
So
Or
at the
does
last,
somebody have to be there to make a presentation?
somebody has to be there. So at the
Oh.
meeting, Joe Priestley actually represented us because the zoning folks didn't think I should.
Okay.
Cindy was supposed to be there, but she couldn't make it back. So I was there, going to be there anyway, so I said, I can stand up. When I suggested that, Jen said, no, let Joe Priestley
Can't
do
do
it. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll plan on being there unless somebody else wants to be there. But my question is, you just have to be a presence or do you actually have to make a presentation?
Just be a presence
Okay.
and answer questions if they ask.
Okay,
Like,
all right, February 26th. All right, continuing on the track of financing, and income stream for us. I've been thinking a lot about it and I've come up with a couple of things, none of which are super promising, but I'll throw them out there for discussion. One opportunity we do have, we've mentioned it a couple of times, is we are already authorized to, we are already bonded to borrow up to $2 million. So we do have that income stream available to us already, granted through a town financial meeting a number of years ago. I checked in with Amy, just to get a sense, of what that means. And she said, that if we were looking at 15 years, a 15-year term, at 4%, $2 million would run us about $145,000 debt service per year. If we were at 5%, and she suggested we keep the 5% number in our mind, better to err on that side, we're looking at about 190,000 debt service per year. So it takes either the lion's share of our yearly income or
bulk of it. If we chose to float that bond. So that's just gives you some good numbers to have in your head. The second thing I was wondering about, and I asked for Amy's opinion. Given the town's financial situation, given the current climate, would it be appropriate and at all feasible for us as a board to ask the town if they are willing to float a bond on behalf of housing, which means the bond would be paid through the tax revenues of the town? I kind of expected her to just give me a hard no, but she was basically saying nothing ventured, nothing gained. So that's another route that we could consider, asking the taxpayers if they are interested in floating a bond on behalf of affordable housing. If that's the case, if we wanted to go down that road, we would need to
Get on a ballot.
get involved in the budget discussions going on now. And I think the drop dead date would be like March, what do you think?
How much can we ask
To get
for?
on.
So the budget is actually presented to the town council on March 19th. And you could certainly start, if we were planning to do that, could make a request basically right now. It wouldn't be addressed until those budget hearings. And it would be part of the warrant. So, I mean, we could submit it as early, I think as early as now and as late as early March.
Would that be a separate item voted in the meeting? Right,
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
not gonna be, it would not be
It would
incorporated
be-
into the tax base.
Correct. It would be a
Yeah,
separate
warrant.
voted item, just like the purchase of the WAPE, remember a couple
Yeah.
of years ago?
Yeah.
And is
that
it's
one.
adding taxes?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, it's a crapshoot, but it's an option. The other thing that I just thought up out of the blue, the short-term rental licenses that are being charged, it's $200 a license. The town is anticipating about 500, give or take.
That was 250, only 200.
So, no, it's 200. So there's about $100,000 worth of revenue revolving around that short-term rental thing. In all of the discussions that the town had in the public meetings, I never heard them say anything about the budget or where the money was going or how it was going to be allocated. Just a thought, we could put in a request that that income stream be directed to the housing board. And there's kind of a equity to that, it's a tax on short-term rentals, having to do with housing issues. Seems kind of equitable that would be a possibility. It's $100,000, give or take, but it's out there.
Yeah.
Another thing that I heard about this past week, is that, who is, her name is Gu.
Victoria Gu is the senator from who represents Westbrook.
Westerly, Gu, okay. So she has presented a bill, which is, very similar to one that was presented to the Massachusetts legislature. And the broad strokes of it are essentially presenting enabling legislation to allow cities and towns the ability to levy a transfer fee on the sale of luxury real estate sales. She defines luxury as $900,000 and above. And then there was a range of what towns could levy, a minimum and a max. But it would give towns the opportunity to collect a fee on a real estate transaction. Now, our town is already doing that with the land trust. So, you know, if this passes through the legislature, then each town and city would have to then have their own discussions on how they would or would not implement. But the funds from that are specifically for affordable housing. To help each town and city meet their affordable housing goals. So that's out there. Now, interestingly, the same type of legislation was in front of the Massachusetts legislature. And Maura Healey, I think, had a multi-billion-dollar package. And this particular piece was picked out of it. The legislators did not seem to have an appetite for it. So I don't know if that will echo the same way in Rhode Island, but it's out there. The other thing is what you were talking about with the discussion that the short-term rentals will be that are currently collecting 8% state sales tax will be increased to 13% to echo the hotel tax. And I don't know whether that will fly or not fly. I'm kind of thinking it might fly. But
where is that going?
well, that would be, I think, an opportunity, a moment for all of us to galvanize that if that happens, then again, I think it would be equitable that the money goes to affordable housing, that extra 5%, rather just to the state coffers. You know, the towns should be lobbying heavily that extra 5% benefits the town. It's certainly
But
gonna be a
wasn't there
huge-
the argument of like, if it goes to the state, then Block Island only gets a little bit of it because it filters out
Well,
throughout
that's
the
way it
entire
currently-
state.
That's the way it currently,
Yeah.
the 8% is currently
I mean,
divided.
the lion's share of like Newport, Block Island, Narragansett, the tourism areas
Well,
are
I
sort of
hope-
supporting the other areas. I mean,
I
it's,
believe that bill, but yeah, I mean, there's room for error. I believe that bill was applying the kind of the existing hotel tax to short-term rentals, which doesn't necessarily give it any latitude as to where
How it
that
gets-
money goes.
yeah.
Which, so I would just be very cautious. I wouldn't want to, recommend supporting that bill.
Oh, I'm not
or anything
recommending
like that,
supporting
if
it.
even for coming to.
I'm
either
not
us.
recommending supporting it. I
Right.
would think we'd fight it, but if
Yeah.
it goes, you know, if it's going to go, then I would be fighting for how that money is.
How did the
shared.
1% go to tourism? Of the 8%, how did that transpire?
Yeah, they have a strong lobby.
But back to Millie's point, which is very important. If you want to elaborate on.
Oh,
that
right,
concern,
which was
if
just,
that goes
which I said
through.
earlier, like if that does go through, written to the effect that it's a housing tax, our legislation specifically says we must exempt properties that pay the housing tax, which then would exempt every single one of our properties, and we would no longer have an income stream at all.
So this is really,
Yes, so I
Right.
mean, I would,
The state's trying to take it.
I would make a motion that we recommend the town council oppose the legislation regarding the hotel tax added to the short-term rentals.
How about?
I agree.
Wait, someone's got a second first, I'm sorry. Are you making a motion?
was that a second?
Sure.
Okay, we have a second. So go ahead.
Discussion. I had written earlier that I thought we were not collecting the taxes that we were supposed to be collecting because I incorrectly read our legislation. And then I said, well, what if we apply our 1% to just all rentals, not just short term? And would that get us around this issue of what your concern is, Millie? And I think we would need legislation to that effect, but that would get us around that problem, and it would greatly increase the revenue stream to the housing board.
You mean adding nightly rentals?
Right, or, short term, anything that's short term, whether it's in a home, our language is it's about for homeowners only. And if we remove that stipulation that it's only for homeowners, that is for, everyone that rents. That way we get into the nightly ones and the hotels and that type of stuff. So I think, I'd asked about that, and I think that we should at least find out if that has, snowball's chance in hell of being passed. So that's what I'd like to see.
Well, back to the motion that's on the table. So, want to repeat it?
That the housing board makes a recommendation to the town council that they oppose the legislation regarding the application of the hotel tax to short-term rentals.
Okay, so that's been seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
I feel that us sticking our head up at this point on this issue will leave a room for retribution. And we're gonna need all the help in the legislature. So, I'm not gonna support. I think we should be quiet.
Anybody want to rethink their position? Or go
I
with
mean,
the-
maybe we could say it's just, I'm willing to withdraw the motion, and maybe addressing at the next meeting, once we get a sense of, actually see the legislation that we're opposing, and,
It may not have legs, but I
And it may
think
not-
it's going to.
yeah,
it's going
so-
to, but-
if everyone's more comfortable in taking some time to read it, chew on it and consider our position, I'm happy to withdraw the motion.
I think it's important for us to understand. It's a lot, there's a lot to understand involving the state, the town, the percentage, short-term, long-term. I think it's important to understand.
Do we want to try to think about how it might work in our benefit, get ahead of it, if it does
I
come
mean,
through,
I don't see how it can benefit us, but.
State
Yeah,
doesn't
I
think
don't
we
think
need
it will
anything.
benefit. But, February 5th, there is a town council work session. I don't know what time, but they will be discussing these legislative issues.
Yeah.
So maybe after that, our meeting will be, follow that. So we would have more information at that juncture.
Yeah, it's a
perhaps.
4:00 meeting
4 o'clock.
on Wednesday. A week from tomorrow.
February 5th.
Yeah, February 5th. And it wouldn't be, I think, inappropriate if someone were to go to that meeting and say, oh, these are our concerns over this bill. It may end up, cutting off our legs, cutting off our income stream, depending on how it's written. So, I mean, it might be worth at least just raising, so that people have have a sense of that.
Is that something we present to the town council in a letter instead of saying we oppose the thing?
Well, I think,
Just saying.
I
I think we need to,
have it just
yeah, be at that
it would be a
meeting.
public meeting. I think it would be appropriate for just from the floor to someone to say, hey, we're the housing board raised some concerns about this meeting. About this bill at their last meeting.
Yeah.
Anyway, that being said, shall I withdraw my motion? Or should we need to revote it or rescind it?
What, the vote was taken, so.
Yeah, so I need to,
We can
I-
revisit within 44 days by motion
yeah,
made by a person
that voted in favor. I'll make a motion to reconsider the motion previously made.
Seconded by Mark. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Okay, so now, but now we're reconsidering the motion. So that was the motion to determine whether we're going to reconsider. So the next process is that motion is now back on the table for consideration.
Okay, so the original motion was to send
A letter
letter to the town
to the town council in
in
opposition.
Now you can amend.
We're reconsidering it. So it's back in front of us for action, and so I think.
So we could vote it down,
Mhm.
So when we
And-
find out more information,
Yeah,
or could you just reword it to
Reword
say
it.
that we will,
make a motion to negate the previous vote on the previous motion and to continue to follow the bill as it moves forward.
okay,
wow.
any further discussion?
Wow. I need to strike it.
Okay,
There needs to be a strike it.
all right.
Aye.
All those in favor? say
Aye.
by saying aye. Anybody opposed? Okay. So now, back to the whole, the bonding issue, the, short-term rental license fee, all the stuff that I put on the table. Does that stick with anybody? Does anybody have some thoughts that we should pursue any of those avenues at this
Yes.
time?
Yeah, so what is the drop dead for us to get to the town on this bonding issue? Not our bonding authority, but asking the town,
The sooner the better.
yeah, so.
Yeah.
So what's the process for that? We just show up and say, we want you to.
No, it would be a motion from the board to send a request to the town council that they include.
Yeah, that's the part. So we request of the town council after we vote on something. If
Mhm.
we would request in a formal letter or something that they.
Yeah, and they would then determine whether they want to include it on the warrant or not.
So they could shoot it down.
Yeah.
But if they vote for it, then it goes to the warrant and then it goes to the electorate.
So I will make a motion to request that the town council consider a town bond to fund the Ball O'Brien project.
Are we talking
In
about
the
the $2
amount
million
of
bond
much?
or like the tax?
No, we're talking about what is $5-7 million bond, $5 million
How
bond?
much are you asking
Yeah.
for?
In the amount of $7 million.
Okay, motion has been made. Is there a second?
Second,
Further discussion?
so we're asking, now we're like asking the taxpayers if they'll foot the bill for the.
Affordable housing for the.
I think we have to be very, are we discussing now?
Yeah.
we're-
I
we're
think we have to be
discussing now.
very, very careful. Because if I'm talking from someone that isn't on the housing board, housing, talk. We have this 1%, we have this short-term rental fee. People, I mean, if we're gonna go for this, it has to be extremely explained, what it's for. That was the issue with, a lot of things that go on that aren't explained to the people. They're not gonna vote on something that they don't know. And I do think it's very confusing for the person out here on what's going where and what is what.
Well,
And
that-
I feel like,
that would be
I think it's a good idea to do it eventually, but I feel like it's gotta be something that's very clear. And, where is the 1% going though? And how much is that? People need to know that it's only 125,000 a year. It doesn't get us to the 7 million we need for housing. Like, I feel like it has to be explained in order for anyone to support it or even consider it.
It's a big PR project.
I think it should be an
I
amount.
think it is a PR project, which I think is very achievable. However, I don't think $7 million has a shot in hell.
No,
And the problem is, how much could we ask for
3.
that could get us to where we need to be? Because
That's more the point.
I don't think we can get
don't-
anywhere without education on
we
this.
don't have,
we need to drive our housing costs down by about $200,000 per
Per
unit.
unit.
Per unit. So I would feel comfortable asking the town to have a warrant for an amount that would help us achieve that goal. Here's what our projected costs are. This is where we need to qualify for a lot of things. And if you can give us that much money, we can leverage it to qualify for additional funding from Rhode Island Housing or from whomever. But going through the whole, I think it won't work.
But will Rhode Island Housing grant that money? Because our construction costs are still gonna be the same. The
No,
fact
but
that-
we
the
bring
fact
money
that-
to it. Right,
Yeah,
that.
That might not matter.
Yeah.
No,
It's the
we're not,
construction, It's the per.
okay,
They're looking at the per unit cost and they're denying it based on that.
but it's because of what we're asking for, I think.
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure that's why we got kicked out. We're asking for them for money to construct, what, you got a point though. It might be that, oh, here's your costs. We don't want to do that. However, if we can buy down the cost to where it's competitive, that's the question for Rhode Island Housing.
Yeah, I feel like the other issue was that it was not helping, and I mean, the amount of money for, I mean, even if we're discounted for the amount of assistance that it provides, the amount of housing that it provides,
Balance.
it's,
The
the
scale was-
scale was just way off.
I don't think Rhode Island Housing is gonna be in our corner
Mm-mm.
for the foreseeable future.
We'd like to have that question asked of them. Were we denied based on our total construction cost per square foot as one of the considerations, or was it the amount of money that we're asking per
It-
square foot?
It was the amount of,
Units?
the number of units. It was too small a project. It was too high a cost per unit. And were the two reasons that they gave us. The overall subtext, I think, was our money can go further elsewhere.
Yeah.
And solve more pressing problems than what Block Island is crying about. I think that, I just don't think they have sympathy for us.
And we're not giving you any tax money.
We did that completely independently.
And just using that project as kind of a reference, the cost per house of that project versus what people have to pay to purchase them, how did that all shake out, right?
We subsidize.
They were subsidized probably 55 to 60% was subsidized by the Block Island Housing Board. So they paid $250 for a 2-bedroom, 250,000, excuse me, for a 2-bedroom and $325 for the 3 bedrooms.
We picked up the difference on cost of construction.
There was a generous person that stepped in,
What we had. There was a
Yeah.
benefactor involved or?
like a, Josie.
Well, no, that was just funds to the housing board,
Yeah.
but that gave us
That
money.
helped, yeah.
but, Yeah, she didn't give it directly for that project, she just
Gave it for the housing.
Well, I was just curious with this housing project, I mean, maybe doing it all in one shot will bite off more than we can chew, or if we break it up into
That's what I was thinking, like
Lot of our
phases.
one building at a time, instead of trying to tackle a $7 million project, it seems a lot more manageable if we did broken into individual units.
Yeah.
That we could get through and then do it in 4 phases, 5 phases.
That is music to my ears, because I really believe as we look at Cherry Hill, I'm really remorseful for the years that have gone by as we went in this direction. But I think that it's clear now that we cannot afford to build that project as designed, that we need to rethink the project. We need to get, as Chris said, the cost per unit down. As you're saying, phasing it would make it manageable. And I think we should also look at a mix of sale and rental. And I think that really is the number one thing we can do to move this project forward. You know, I brought up all of these options with bonding and town bonding, our own bonding,
What can we do for you?
but I think of all of them, I would just be asking the town for that short-term rental license fee, that $100,000 a year. At this point, because I think the amount of money that we need to bond is just a number that won't be palatable to the voters.
I'm gonna make a motion that we bond amount of money to be determined where we bring our costs. First of all, let me stop. We need to find out from Rhode Housing. We don't need to hear that, oh, they don't like us or anything like that. We need to find out from Rhode Island Housing why, if we are able to lower our cost of construction to them, will they reconsider supporting our project? If that is yes, then we can, I feel comfortable asking the town to basically buy down the cost of our project, where we can leverage our housing board to qualify for assistance from Rhode Island Housing or others.
That's logical, Chris, but the issue is at this point, there is no round of funding that is going to match.
Didn't they just announce a round of funding?
Yes, but we had this discussion before. There was a round of funding, and all of those programs that they are funding did not apply to a project that was anywhere near. They were either very low income or they were rehab money. You know, I don't remember what the pots of money were, but they did not have a funding source similar to the last two rounds that we were. And we have no idea when and if there will be another source of funding that will match a project that we are trying, you know, be similar to a project that we want to do.
So,
I think that if, like Josh said, and what I was thinking is phasing, I think maybe in what you were saying, reevaluating, you know, redoing what we want to do there. Obviously, this $7 million, $8 million is unattainable right now. Not that it will be in the future, or won't be another project or whatever, but right now, we're talking about how much money we need. If we're going to reevaluate what we're going to do there, let's come up with that number and then figure out how we're going to get it. You know, like, is it going to cost, you know, half if we reevaluate it, and then, you know, we figure out where we get that money then? I think it's going to be hard to get the money if we don't really know what we're doing yet.
all right, so just bookkeeping. So we haven't voted on my motion, so I can withdraw it, right? Is that correct? Asking for $7 million.
Dollar bond.
Let me just write you a check.
Yeah, that's right. Shannon, second.
We were in the.
Right,
we're
we
in
didn't vote.
discussion.
We're in discussion.
We're in
So I
discussion.
can still withdraw. Yeah. I am going to make a motion to withdraw my previous motion.
Yeah, you can withdraw it. Okay.
Oh,
Shannon can withdraw.
sorry. Okay.
Withdraw your second.
I would.
I didn't say anything. So can we make
Okay.
a motion at the next meeting to talk about reevaluating Paul O'Brien?
And I like the design that we have. and
Yeah.
the buildings, I think that's making the most of what we have available, but
And the density there, because we
Yeah.
have town sewer, town water, all that.
I'm concerned that, I think there is a huge demand for rentals and it's something we need to address, but I definitely feel like it's gonna be a lot harder to execute a rental.
It is.
As opposed to sales where we're guaranteed money back right away, not a trickle of money over.
Even more than that, I think, is the ongoing maintenance to be in a situation like East Earl's Ball, where, you know,
Well, nobody's
the
doing
burden
it.
of that
But
physical
yeah,
maintenance.
and then I mean,
Whatever.
they could be rentals though, because we could, and we've talked about this before, I know I have, and I'm not sure, is you sell them to the school, the water department, you know, then they do become rentals. But they're sold from the housing board.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You sell it to, you know, one to the school, one to the police station. If they, you know, if we can make it so that it's something that they can afford, then the money's coming from their sources back to us. Then we go on to the next project, but they still are rentals because they're within that, you know. Yeah, you know, either the town entity, the school. Yeah, but it's still a rental because it's for people that are coming out here to do their job. kind of thing. So there is a way to still get the rental aspect of it in there. But we'd have to be more creative on how they're sold and the deed
How it's structured.
restrictions and structured how that way. But I do think that that's more attainable than trying to figure out how we come up with $8 million for 2 years, grabbing it from everywhere and,
And it might allow us to move forward quicker.
yeah, and still do the rental aspect of things, because I do think rentals are important. And unfortunately, without, you know, the support that we might need from it or whatever, you know, maybe we start with a smaller one and see how it works instead of doing the 16, you know, or we deal with the sale to people that are renting and restrict it that way, or maybe that's our idea, you know, to get rentals on board, you know, for people. I just,
Well, I would encourage the board to, you know, at our next meeting to really start to get a checklist, a punch list of how we can start to tackle re-envisioning the Ball O'Brien development.
Well, I could revisit the original quotes that somewhere, one was from, Atlantic Valley, we had
Yeah.
another one from another company.
Yeah.
Start to revisit it as far as breaking down the, you know, because there's a lump sum for X amount of units, you know, where we're at for 1 year.
Okay. That would be great. Okay, then I'm gonna see if I'll make a motion to ask at the February 5th Town Council work session to ask the town council to consider allocating the revenues collected from the short-term rental license fee to accrue to the housing. Who made the second? Mark made a second. Any further discussion on that one?
should we ask for all of it or a portion of it? They might not want to give it all to us.
Oh, we can ask for all and see what they say.
But I mean, maybe we shouldn't ask for all of it, 'cause then instead of saying no, maybe we'll get a percentage and then
Well, that's
inch
up to
that
them to
percentage.
decide.
No, but we don't want to ask for all of it and never like not even talk about it. I don't know, you know, sometimes it's better to, I don't know, just to throw things out there to make the meeting longer.
More discussion?
I agree with the scenario. we should
Okay.
explore all of it, but
All right.
on negotiators now, if they want to. Next.
Anybody else? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
I,
Anybody
I'm
opposed?
gonna abstain from that.
Okay, one abstention. Anybody else have any other thoughts on funding or design options at this juncture?
Yes. Again, just go right back to what I had said. I think that we should ask for consideration of changing of the language, not just to include houses or homes. And have that stricken from our funding. So that we can include nightly rentals, you know, things that don't qualify as short-term. And for houses. I think it would bring in far more money than the 100,000 possible through that other mechanism. We need to ask for basically the town, this is what I was going to do when the lobbyists were coming, to see what they thought about that idea, ask if the town would agree to have the lobbyists spend time, you know, putting that out there to see if it had a chance for us, for the house. It's specific to the Block Island Housing Board.
Was that a motion, Chris?
Yes.
Is there a second? Hearing none, we'll move on. Anything further under that item?
I would like to, not at this meeting, but maybe the next agenda, make sure that we include the Westerly's representatives bill. Just for review, I'd love to see it. And then potentially we can make it an action item so we could potentially request the council to support it.
Great idea. We've already covered number 9 earlier. And now we come to number 10, election of officers for the new year. Historically, I believe our legislation cites a chairman, a vice chairman, a secretary, and a treasurer. We have historically only elected a chair and a vice chair because the town has graciously provided us the services of a clerk and the treasurer, the town treasurer. So
I thought you had, Stacy, as I recall, was the secretary. And if you wanted, I would be the secretary if you need an
official secretary, okay.
I can
So
certainly
on the-
step
on the
down
ballot-
as
on
vice
the-
if someone
on
else
the,
wants to do it.
On the, so we'll keep a secretary position, okay. So, Shannon is willing to stand as secretary again. Are there any other nominations for secretary? Then I will make a motion to, nominate Shannon for secretary. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much.
official.
In terms of the chair, I love being on this board. I have served as chair for a long time. I want to continue working hard on this board, but I really feel the moment has come for somebody else to be the chair. So I will continue to work hard and I would love to entertain any motions for someone to be a chair.
I'll make a motion to nominate Mark McGuire as chair. Willing?
I would second that.
We have a motion and a second.
Who's seconding?
Chris?
Chris.
Any further discussion on that?
As long as you stay on the board.
I will stay on the board, but. Okay, all raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Congratulations. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you, Cindy.
Yeah,
I
certainly.
think
Thank you.
this is a good idea. Good.
We also need a vice chair.
We do. So I will open the floor for nomination for vice chair.
I'll nominate Rosemary.
We have a nomination for Rosemary. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second.
Were you still willing?
Yes,
You-
I'll
you
still do
respond?
You, this is the position you have, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, that's all right.
Any further nominations? All those in favor of nominating, of voting Rosemary, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you so much. Very, very.
All right. Do we have to do anything in closed session? I really.
We do.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah, closed session. I'll make
Yeah.
a motion to
Are you getting on
enter
Barry?
closed session.
No, I'm
Pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 42, 46, 5A and 5.
Second.
There's
Let me
second,
know about that.
any further
stuff.
discussion?
Yes, I will.
Okay.
I will.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm sorry, I'm gonna leave the meeting.
Okay. So wanted to. So,
Do we have to turn off the YouTube?
oh, I guess.
Oh,
we'll do.
yes.
Yeah, thank you.